All right, let's talk about swearing your way to success. Sounds crazy, right? But today we're diving into the science of how a few choice words might actually be the secret to boosting your performance. Look, we all want to be at the top of our game, right? Especially when it comes to those skills that need a really steady hand. So what is the secret? How do you unlock that peak performance?
Oh, you totally know this feeling. Picture this. You've practiced that guitar solo, that perfect golf putt, 1,000 times. It's flawless. But then, the second the pressure's on, your fingers just turn to jelly. They just won't cooperate. It's that sudden, maddening loss of control right when you need it most.
Okay, so let's break down why our hands fail us like that. You know the common advice we always hear? Well, it might actually be leading us down completely the wrong path.
Right. We're always told, just take a deep breath. Calm down. But here's the thing, that advice can totally backfire. For a lot of us, forcing ourselves to relax actually drains the very energy we need to be sharp. It leaves you feeling flat when you should be firing on all cylinders.
So, what if the real secret to peak performance is something that usually gets bleeped out on TV?
I know, it sounds totally nuts, but the science actually suggests that a well-placed F-bomb could be the exact mental hack you need to unlock that elite performance.
And believe it or not, there is real science here. I'm talking about studies linking swearing to all kinds of psychological goodies. More self-confidence, better mood, even getting into that flow state. Get this, researchers have seen highly trained surgeons swearing during super complex operations just to keep their edge. Wild, right?
So to really put this to the test, some researchers set up a really cool study. They got 61 university students and gave them this super tricky dexterity test. They had to move these tiny little pegs around as fast as they could. But here's the twist. Before they started, they had to repeat a word for 15 seconds. It was either a totally neutral word, like table, or their favorite swear word, the one they'd shout if they stubbed their toe.
And the result of that one tiny change? It was a pretty staggering boost in performance. It all came down to this one single number.
Yeah, on average, the students were almost 7% faster just from swearing beforehand. And just to make sure it wasn't some kind of fluke, they ran another study with a different test. And guess what? Same thing, a 5.7% performance boost. That's pretty significant.
Okay, so what in the world is going on here? Why would swearing make you better at a delicate task? Well, it all comes down to something called your optimal energy zone.
There's this really cool concept from sports psychology called IZOF that stands for Individual Zones of Optimal Functioning. It's a theory from a psychologist named Yuri Hanin, and it pretty much explains everything. So for years, the old thinking was that there was this universal Goldilocks zone for everyone, Not too anxious, not too calm, but just right. But Hanin's IZOF theory blew that out of the water. It turns out everybody has their own personal zone. Yeah, some people need to be calm, but a whole lot of others, they actually perform their absolute best when they're really amped up.
And that is the absolute key. Swearing gives you this quick, sharp jolt of activation. It's like a mini adrenaline shot. It just fires up your nervous system and pushes you right into your unique, personal sweet spot for peak performance. Okay, but hold on, this is super important. Before you start dropping F-bombs at your next presentation or golf tournament, there is a massive catch, and you really need to understand it. Seriously, this isn't some tiny little detail. If you get this next part wrong, it won't just cancel out the benefits, it could actually make your performance a whole lot worse. Think back to that study for a second. Where were those students? They were in a quiet, calm lab. There was no pressure, no screaming audience. They were starting from a state of being understimulated. So the swearing worked because it gave them the kick they needed to get up into their optimal zone.
So here's the practical 3-step plan for you. Step 1, you've got to check in with yourself. Assess your energy level. Are you feeling calm, maybe even a little flat or low energy? If the answer is yes, then a quick 15-second swearing session might be just the boost you need. But, and this is step 3, if you're already feeling anxious, jittery, overhyped, swearing is a terrible idea. It's just going to push you way over the edge, past your optimal zone. So in that case, abort. Don't do it.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that, yeah, strategic swearing can be a super powerful tool, but only if you're starting from a calm baseline. So the next time you need that little boost to really lock in your focus, what's your go-to word going to be? You could just use asterisks, it's fine.